After 220 visits to shelters and rescues in 17 states, here's what I know. Shelters are given an impossible task, not enough resources to do that task, and then condemned when they don't accomplish that task. What is that task? The task is some combination of, most importantly, saving them all, or at least 90%. Helping everyone who comes to the door, whether they want to surrender an animal or adopt one. Keeping the building, especially the kennels, pristine and the dogs happy and healthy. Finding good homes or rescue for all of the animals. And if it's a municipal shelter, the staff may also be expected to investigate cruelty situations, go out on the streets and round up reported strays, and or hold dogs involved in court cases for indefinite periods of time. They have to make sure that all the dogs are spayed, neutered, vaccinated, and microchipped. If they have medical needs, those should be addressed also. They need to invite and train and supervise volunteers, have a foster program, and make sure those fosters have all the supplies they need and all the support they need. They need to find and build relationships with rescues to pull dogs so that the shelter's numbers stay under control. And some have to lead fundraising just to cover the costs of running the shelter. And of course, they need to thank everyone who donates anything to the shelter. And they're also expected to be nice to everyone who comes through the doors, even the grumpy, rude, or angry ones. And do all of this for low pay and long hours that often carry over into evenings and weekends and will absolutely break your heart every day. That's a crazy list. And I'm sure I left things out. But it's one too many shelter workers labor under. They can't do it alone, and they can't do it without the resources necessary. I've met hundreds now, if not thousands, of shelter workers, ACOs, volunteers, humane officers, transporters, veterinarians, and government officials involved in animal shelters. Here are a few things I've learned about them. Every one of them is there because they care about animals. Every one of them took the job because they want to help animals. They may be beaten down and bitter or even a bit cynical after seeing so many cruel situations and people who don't value the lives of animals. They may be angry at the unfairness, exhausted by the overwhelming job and the endless stream of animals, but that's not how they started, and that's not who they are at their core. They are people who love animals, but they are also humans, not superhumans. They should be treated with respect. Very few people have any idea how much animal shelter staff do and put up with on a daily basis. There's a reason why mental health is also a crisis in our animal shelters. Here's what I know doesn't help. Slamming the shelter or the people who work there. It never helps to publicly shame the shelter or the individuals involved with the shelter. It creates an us versus them scenario, and if you really want to help animals in your community, you have to do more than complain. But I beg of you, remember, there are real people at the center of all this, people who, like you, care about animals. Yes, animals matter, but people matter also. Condemning, alienating, or ignoring the shelter staff is not how you fix the problem. You have to get involved. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't know all that they are up against. I remember the first time I visited a shelter. It was about 8 years ago. I had fostered over 100 dogs and written a book about fostering. I walked around, took in the situation, and I was ashamed that I had no idea it was like that. At that shelter, 80% of the dogs were heartworm positive. There was no money for preventatives or kitten formula or basic care. And most of the dogs, their only shot at getting out alive was through rescue. I asked the director what she needed, unsure how I could help, and she swallowed really hard, blinked back her tears, and I can still hear her say, everything. Since then, while I've cared about every dog I've met in the shelter, what I've cared more about is helping the people given this impossible task. People who took the job with excitement and belief that they would save lives, only to eventually slam hard into the wall of unrealistic expectations, not enough resources, and nonstop criticism. Over the last few years, we've watched things get harder and harder while the Save Them All chant continues. Shelter staff everywhere, regardless of their save rate, are struggling because the challenge is getting harder every day and the pressure is not lessening. Instead of telling a shelter all you believe they are doing wrong, ask, how can I help? Or what do you need? Set down your anger and your pride long enough to learn the other side of the story and recognize that what is expected of shelter staff is insane. They are set up to fail, and then we are angry when they do. Look for ways to help instead of insisting that nothing can be done. If you don't believe the shelter will ever change, then you are probably right. But what if you believe the situation could get better? If you believe that, the possibilities are wide open. Fixing our shelter crisis starts with acknowledging that the crisis exists and then being a part of the solution. Our shelters are failing in big numbers, even if they have a sign that says no kill on their door. They are failing if they aren't helping the very people and animals they were created to serve. We've taken such a big swing toward managing intake and turning people away when the shelter is full to avoid hard decisions and protect a made-up number. And meanwhile, we have not invested in affordable, accessible spay-neuter, education, dog-friendly housing, or any of the other upstream solutions. Meanwhile, our stray population increases, as do incidents of hoarding, and too many people have no options for their animals. Eventually, there will have to be a correction. Those dogs left out of the system don't just disappear. In fact, they multiply. The unrealistic standard of 90% at all costs puts shelter staff in an impossible position. Instead of worrying about math, let's focus on helping the animals and the community by supporting the shelter staff, getting involved, giving them the resources they need, and creating a shelter that serves the entire community and offers true sheltering. If you've got ideas, we want to hear them. So please reach out, because together we can let the dogs out.